Every American school child learns about Hiroshima, the bomb that ended the war, the moment that changed everything. But 3 months before Hiroshima, America already did something worse. In a single night, March 9, 1945, nearly 100,000 people died in Tokyo, not from a nuclear weapon, from fire. More dead in one night than Hiroshima. More buildings destroyed than any single air raid in human history. And almost no one in the Western world can tell you what it was called. Its name was Operation Meeting House. And the reason you haven't heard of it tells you everything about how history decides what to remember. By early 1945, the B-29 program was a disaster. The United States had spent $2 billion, more than the Manhattan Project, building the most advanced bomber in history. The B-29 Superfortress, range 3,000 miles, bomb capacity 20,000 pounds, the weapon that was supposed to break Japan from the air. But it wasn't working. High-altitude precision bombing, the doctrine the Air Force had built everything around, was failing over Japan. Jet stream winds at 30,000 feet scattered bombs miles off target. Cloud cover hid the factories. Results: minimal damage, cost enormous. General Curtis LeMay took command of the 21st Bomber Command in January 1945. He reviewed 6 months of bombing reports. He saw almost nothing to show for it. And he decided to do something that every senior officer around him thought was insane. He was going to send his bombers in at night, at low altitude, without their defensive gunners, loaded with incendiary bombs, over the most densely populated city on Earth. His staff told him he would lose 70% of his planes. LeMay calculated the losses differently. He thought he might lose 5%. One of them was right. One of them was catastrophically wrong. Here is what LeMay understood about Tokyo that the high-altitude planners had missed. Tokyo was not a city of steel and concrete like Detroit or Hamburg. It was a city of wood. Millions of wooden homes, packed tightly together, separated by narrow streets. The whole city was tinder. And incendiary bombs, the M69, a small firebomb developed specifically for Japanese cities, created fires that spread. Fires that combined. Fires that became their own weather systems. LeMay's plan: 334 B-29 bombers would fly at between 5,000 and 9,000 feet, nighttime, so Japanese anti-aircraft gunners couldn't aim properly. Without gun turret crews, removed to carry more bombs. Each plane loaded with 6 to 8 tons of incendiaries. Target: a 12-square-mile corridor through the heart of Tokyo. The mission was called Operation Meeting House. When his staff objected that removing the gunners was suicidal, LeMay said, if the mission worked, it wouldn't matter. If it failed, it wouldn't matter either. On the evening of March 9, 1945, the planes took off from the Mariana Islands. They flew north. None of them knew what they were about to do had never been done before in the history of warfare. None of them knew that by morning, a word would exist for what happens when fire takes over a city and the city cannot stop it. That word is firestorm. The first bombs fell at 12:15 a.m., March 10th. The target area was one of the most densely populated places on Earth. 87,000 people per square mile. Wooden homes. Narrow streets. No fire breaks. The lead planes dropped incendiaries in an X pattern, a giant burning cross to mark the target zone for the 300 planes behind them. Within minutes, individual fires merged. Fire created wind. Wind fed fire. The temperature at street level reached 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. People ran to rivers and canals. The water boiled. People ran to parks. The fire followed. B-29 crews flying 5,000 feet above reported being hit by the updraft from the thermal below. Hot air rising so violently it threw multi-ton aircraft hundreds of feet upward.
It's unbelievable, the power of this new weapon. The survey
Crews reported smelling burning flesh through the pressurized hulls of their planes. The raid lasted 2 hours and 40 minutes. Then the planes turned south and flew home. Below them, 16 square miles of Tokyo were gone. When dawn came on March 10th, here's what the United States Strategic Bombing Survey would later document: 267,000 buildings destroyed. That is more structures than existed in the entire city of Tampa, Florida. 1 million people left homeless in one night. And the number the history books still argue over, somewhere between 80,000 and 100,000 people dead in a single night. For comparison, Hiroshima, August 6th, estimated 70,000 to 80,000 people killed in the initial blast. Hiroshima took a single bomb, a single plane, a single moment. Meeting House took 334 planes, 2 hours and 40 minutes, and killed more people. General LeMay received the report and ordered more missions. Osaka, Kobe, Nagoya, Yokohama, the same method. The same results. By August 1945, 67 Japanese cities had been firebombed. 500,000 people killed by incendiary raids alone, before a single atomic bomb was dropped. This is the history that gets compressed into a footnote. A sentence in a chapter about strategic bombing. A number without faces. Because 3 months after Meeting House, the Enola Gay took off from the same island chain where LeMay's bombers had been staging. And Hiroshima became the story of how the war ended. Meeting House became a detail. A military operation with an unremarkable name. Something that happened before the real story began. Except for the people below those planes. For them, Meeting House was the story. March 10th, 1945, was the worst night in the history of their city. And most of the world never learned their name for it. In Japanese, they call it the night of the Great Tokyo Air Raid. Shidamachi went silent, and the ashes took weeks to clear. LeMay filed his after-action report the morning of March 10. Mission results: highly successful. Losses: 14 planes, 2%. His estimate had been right. He requested resupply of incendiary bombs immediately. He planned the next mission before the smoke over Tokyo cleared. Washington approved. The press release was brief. No official inquiry followed. No congressional hearings. LeMay was promoted. The United States Strategic Bombing Survey, conducted after the war, concluded that the firebombing campaign, not the atomic bombs, was the primary driver of Japan's economic collapse and willingness to surrender. That report was published in 1946, widely distributed in military circles, largely ignored by everyone else. America had a better story. A story about science. A story about one bomb. A story that ended a war in a flash of light rather than 2 hours of fire. Meeting House was the wrong shape for that story, so it got filed away. There is a memorial in Tokyo for the victims of March 10, 1945. It holds the ashes of 105,000 people. It sits quietly in a park near the Sumida River. Most tourists walk past it. Most Americans have never heard of it. In the United States, March 10, 1945 is not a date anyone teaches. There is no memorial, no moment of silence, no name that most people recognize. The war ended in August. The story was written in August. What happened in March was quietly set aside. Now you know what happened in March. Nearly 100,000 people, one night. A mission named Meeting House. The deadliest air raid in the history of warfare, and the one history forgot. The next story is about the 400 men who held Wake Island for 15 days after Pearl Harbor, and what America did when it had to choose between saving them and saving face. It's already waiting for you.